Hi, I'm Igor Smirnov, international grandmaster and a chess coach. It's my great pleasure to talk to you again. Welcome to my new course, an endgame expert. Why I decided to make an endgame course? Well, there are a few reasons. First, I always consider the most frequent questions of my pupils while considering the next course's topic. Secondly, an endgame stage becomes a very important phase and a very powerful weapon nowadays. In this introductory video, I'm going to tell you why it is so. In these latter days, computers bear a strong influence on chess players. Computers have changed players' opening, learning and pre-game preparation and the game style in general. Modern chess players mainly know a lot of opening lines, standard middle game plans, just because everyone can find a lot of typical games for a certain position in a database. And also they can calculate tactical variations well. Computers are very strong in tactics and calculation, thus we have a great teacher here. This is a typical chess portrait of a modern player. As you know, we should exploit the opponent's weaknesses to gain a victory. Therefore, let's think about weak points of such players. Perhaps you have noticed that all the merits in this portrait are related to an opening and a middle game stage. Thus, there is a huge hole in an endgame. A lot of players, even titled players, don't play endgames very well. If you can do it a bit better, you'll get the great advantage over all of them. My friend, who is an experienced grandmaster, says, "Last 10 years I've fed my family on endgames account." Well, certainly it's a bit joke, but it's not far away from reality. Another friend once came from the tournament where he got the first place. When he showed me his games, I was quite surprised. In 7 games out of 9, he had a totally equal endgame positions. At the same time, he won most of these games. When I asked him about this situation, he answered me the following. "You know how it happens. You play and get an equal endgame. Then your opponent offers you a draw, and when you decline it, he doesn't know what to do at all. After that, an opponent starts making silly things, and you win the game easily." This time it's not a joke even. It really happens like this in practical games. Let me show you one concrete example.
ملخوف ضد نجر النقل الأبيض. طوال الدور كان الموقف متكافئا تقريبا، والآن أصبحنا في نهاية دور تعادلية. هيا نرى ما الذي حدث. الأبيض لعب بيشوب جي 4 كوين اي 8. الأسود اقترف خطأ، لقد حاول أن يغطي مربع سي 8، ولكن كان من الأفضل أن يقوم بذلك بلعب كوين دي 8. والآن رد الأبيض كوين دي 3 وسيطر على العمود المفتوح. كينج اف 8 بيشوب دي 2 بيشوب بي 8. نقلة غريبة أخرى تم لعبها. لست متأكدا ما هي الفكرة وراء النقلة بيشوب بي 8. بدلا من ذلك كان الأسود يستطيع لعب كوين دي 8 بموقف عادي. بي 5 اتش 5 بيشوب اتش 3 سي بي. موقف الأسود كان غير صار، ولكن بعد سي بي أصبح خاسرا. رد الأبيض بيشوب بي 4، والأسود ليس له دفاع كافي ضد الكش بالكشف بواسطة سي 6. كينج جي 8 لن تساعده، لأن الأبيض سيواصل كوين دي 5 كينج اتش 7 كوين بي 7، وبيدق سي سيندفع للأمام سريعا.
Black did mistakes by every second move and lost an equal endgame very quickly. Do you think that he is just a weak player? No, he is a strong grandmaster with 2600 rating. I can show you a lot of similar examples. You can see that even very strong players have huge problems in an endgame stage. Why the situation is so sad? Well, as I've already told you, a computer can't help much here. That's why nobody knows exactly how to improve one's endgame skills. Endgame books are not very helpful either. There are two main types of endgame materials. First, it's an endgame manual which contains a couple of well-known rules. Something like you should bring the king into the game. Such books are good only for the beginners. The second type is the collection of theoretical positions. In something like a rook and a pawn against a rook. Many chess players think that to play an endgame well, you need to learn a lot of theoretical positions. It's a common misunderstanding, and I'd like to warn you against it. First and foremost, most of theoretical positions never happen. How often have you played a position with a queen and a pawn against a queen in tournament games? For most players, the answer is never. Even if you played it once or twice, it is so scarce that we may not consider it seriously. Yes, some theoretical positions happen more often. Nevertheless, the quantity of such positions is quite low and you can learn them relatively easily. Here is what happens in a practical gameplay most often. You get a naughty endgame position. In such situation, you should rely more on your general endgame understanding, not on your memory. The one with better endgame skills will outplay his opponent. When the situation clears and nears its end, so when a theoretical position may happen, the result of the game is already clear. We may conclude again that your theoretical knowledge is not the main factor.
إليك مباراة شهيرة بين كابابلانكا ضد منشك. اقترف اثنين من أبطال العالم العديد من الأخطاء في موقف نظري بسيط. ملحوظة من المترجم: لا أعرف أحد أبطال العالم اسمه منشك، وأعتقد أنه خطأ من سيميروف. النقل للأسود في نهاية دور نظرية معروفة جدا، فهو لا يجب عليه أن يبقي على الرخ في الصف السادس، ولكن هذا بالضبط ما قام به الأسود. روك A6. الموقف أصبح فوز سهل للأبيض، فليس عليه سوى لعب كينج F8 كش ثم يدفع البيدق، ولكن بدلا من ذلك لعب كابابلانكا روك D7، وهذا خطأ فادح حيث أغفل الفوز. روك E8 روك E7. في موقف مشابه حدث مرة أخرى. تقريبا أي مربع يعتبر جيدا ما عدا A6، ولكن الأسود اقترف هذا الخطأ مرة أخرى. روك A6. هذه المرة كابابلانكا لعب النقلة الصحيحة كينج F8 كينج G6 F7، وأصبح الموقف فوز سهل للأبيض، ولكن المغامرة لم تتوقف هنا. بالمناسبة، نستطيع أن نرى لماذا مربع A6 مربع سيء للرخ. بعد كينج F6 قد يرد الأبيض كينج G8، والأسود لا يستطيع القيام بكش من عمود G لأن الملك يغلق طريق الرخ. في الدور لعب الأسود روك E8 روك E8 روك A7 روك E6 كينج H7. الآن يجب على الأبيض تحريك الرخ إلى مكان ما بالخلف لكي يستطيع أن يعطي بعض الكش، ولكن بدلا من ذلك قام بخطأ فادح آخر ولعب كينج E8. وهنا بعد روك E8 كينج E7 يستطيع الأسود لعب كينج G7 والدور تعادل. الأبيض ليس لديه دفاع ضد روك A7 كش. إذا كان رخ الأبيض على مربع آخر كان يستطيع القيام بالكش من عمود جي، ولكنه لا يستطيع ذلك الآن. على أي حال قام الأسود بخطأه الأخير ولعب روك A7، وأخيرا فاز الأبيض بالدور بعد كينج F6. إن هذا دور شهير وعادة ما يذكر في الكتب لكي يوضح أهمية معرفة المواقف النظرية، ولكني قد أريتك هذا الدور من منظور معاكس.
Yes, they both did a lot of mistakes. However, they both were world champions. Capablanca was a genius of an endgame, and he won most of his endgame positions. And finally Capablanca won this game anyway. Well, I'm not saying that you don't need to study theoretical positions at all. I say that it's not the main thing. Spend 10% of your endgame study to the theoretical positions and 90% to the general endgame skills. This course and endgame experts will help you to develop your general skills. There are a lot of books containing the collections of theoretical positions, and I'm sure you can study them by yourself. Okay, there are a few more reasons why it is important to play an endgame well. First, modern opening theory sometimes leads to an endgame. It happens especially often in sharp openings like Knight Operation, Grunfeld Defense or King's Indian Defense. Normally, a game between two players will be decided in an endgame. Rarely you can checkmate your opponent in a middle game. Even if you develop a strong attack, an opponent can sacrifice a pawn or an exchange but prevent himself from being mated. Therefore, you have to be able to realize your advantage in an endgame to gain a well-deserved victory. Next, we often play endgames in a time trouble. Thus, you need to have a clear understanding of what you should do in an endgame, and you need to automate your endgame skills. The one more note I'd like to make here is that an endgame is not a draw. A lot of players are afraid to exchange pieces because they think that such simplification will lead to a draw. This idea is certainly wrong. Often we should simplify a position to win the game. I will give you only one example here because we'll talk about it later. For instance, when you play against an isolated pawn, you should trade the pieces because it will make it simpler for you to capture the isolated pawn in an endgame. There are a lot of other situations when a simplification is the best way for a win. I hope that after a study of this course, you'll see that an endgame is a very complex and interesting stage of a game. Many aggressive plans are possible in an endgame. Moreover, most players are not well versed in this phase of a game. Thus, there are a lot of chances for a win, even in an equal endgame. Okay, if you have studied my other courses, you probably know the basic ideas about an endgame already. In this course, I will explain everything in more details and will show you more advanced ideas. I will explain some rules particularly and something may seem simple for you. Please take it seriously. If I tell you only the final conclusions, you will have to mechanically memorize them. This is what most chess books do, and it's totally ineffective. You can't keep many rules in your head while playing. Instead of that, you need to understand the endgame principles. Then they will become natural for you and you will follow them automatically. You don't need to be reminded that you need to breathe regularly, right? So, this course will help you to play an endgame well and to make it easy and automatic. Thanks for your attention. I'm waiting for you in the second lesson where we will talk about an endgame planning.